everyone, Tony D with a final hot take of the evening. Man, I'm doing a lot of takes of this. This is like my fifth take. I don't know why. It just gets a little rambly. So much happened today, you know. Before I forget, smash like and subscribe. YouTube, I don't know what they're doing. They're getting a little funky with my channel. People are telling me they're not getting alerts all the time, and I'm getting weird comments, and comments disappear. So, subscribe to me here. Subscribe to me on BitChute. Vote up the video and save the channel and all that good stuff. If you'd like to support the channel and get Joan more treats, buy my books, Wokistan, a novel, and The Pineys. Links are in the description. Ebook, trade paperback, Kindle, unlimited is free. Now, the final hot take of the evening is about, I guess, Joe Biden. I guess it's all about Biden now. You know, the Trump train came through Portland, and this Trump supporter was murdered after it was over. But all along, the road, they got eggs thrown at him, and I believe in LA they took a shot at him. They had one in LA, and the Trump supporters were kind of clever. They they somehow got bear mace to spray out on their trucks. I guess they rigged up hoses to spray out mace on the protesters, which was very smart because they kind of weren't expecting that. And they kind of let their defenses down a bit, and they got it right in the face. And then they were like, ah! It's smart, but, don't. I know your friend's been killed, and it's wrong. Let the cops handle it. Let the cops handle it. And it may be, well, it looks like he's identified. The guy's identified. So it looks like they got him. But don't retaliate. Look how they spun this. They're going to spin this guy as much as they can. They're going to help him as much as they can. You don't want any more tragedies. Be like Trump. Trump is very unpredictable, right? He acts. He doesn't react. Biden tends to react. He's trying to turn things around for Trump, but it's a little bit late. Like he was on Twitter saying, I challenge Donald Trump to condemn the violence on both sides. Like Trump's been doing that for like months and months and months, if not years. Now Biden is suddenly says that as assuming, it's the assumption, he hasn't done that. Well, it's BS. Of course he's done that. He's been screaming law and order for like months. So Trump doesn't even react to that. He doesn't even react to Joe. I remember seeing stuff about Trump and thinking to myself, man, is Trump going to say something in the press conference? And he just effing ignored it. Now, if a reporter brought it up, he'd go right into the reporter and maybe he'd answer, maybe he wouldn't, and he catches the reporters off guards all the time. Like he'll be heading to his plane or helicopter and he suddenly turns, okay, I got 5 minutes for questions. Go ahead. So, I think by now the reporter's like, oh, I got to get my questions ready because Trump could turn to me at any time. And if I'm not ready, he'll just skip over me. He's very quick that way. Trump manages a room and doesn't react to it. So when he does answer questions, he's answering questions in a controlled environment. Like, oh, I'm about to get on my chopper, ask me a question. Like he's in control of that, right? He could suddenly say, well, I got to go, or he can stand there and answer the question if he wants. Same thing with his press conferences. He could say, okay, what's your question? I got time for a couple of questions. And then when he's done, he just walks out of the room. Reporters are still asking him stuff. Oh, you didn't really answer the question. Next question. Ooh, that was almost Trump. Next question, please. Almost there. So Biden, he's not like that. He might have been able to do that 10 years ago, but he's in a decline and he's just in a fog. He's not quick. Today he messed up. He said something about the beer virus. Oh, it's killed more people than people have died in 100 years or something like that. I think what he meant was 100 years ago was when the last, virus happened, and this virus is, he was equating this virus with the previous one 100 years ago. That's not totally accurate because 100 years ago, millions of people died. It's more close to, there was one in like 68 or 69. It was a virus, about over 100,000 people died. And they didn't close anything. I didn't even think it was a news story at the time, oddly enough. And it just sort of came and went, and that was it. And this is back before the days before the days of flu shots. They didn't have flu shots in 68, 69. I don't even know when they started flu shots. Probably in the late 80s, early 90s, maybe. Maybe a little further back. I mean, they probably had it, but it wasn't something like you could get at a drugstore. You'd have to go to your doctor and specifically ask for one back then. And probably only the elderly got it. People who were really, really vulnerable. It wouldn't be like a common thing. Like now you can go to the Rite Aid or to Walmart. I was in Target one day and they're like, "You want a flu shot?" And I was like, "What? Like right here?" They were like, "Yeah, we'll give you one right now." And I turned it down just because I don't really want a flu shot for free in a Target. It just didn't strike me as medically sound. The whole setup was just like a little too, I don't really trust your flu shot from Target. Maybe if I was in a doctor's office, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, give me a flu shot." But I don't know, maybe it's just the environment, but that's just me. But anyhow, Biden is, he's trying to pivot on this riot thing. It's just not working. How are you going to pivot on this? How are you going to pivot when your VP choice helped fundraise for the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which freed criminals, was supposed to free protesters and end up freeing criminals. And the guy who's the interim executive director or whatever says something like, "Oh, well, we got to, I don't even check the charges. I just let these people go because, it's all about tearing down the system." I mean, does Biden even know that? He's got to get Kamala Harris out of that. Kamala Harris has got to completely come out and say something, but she won't, because most people don't know about that Minnesota fund. Probably the people in Minnesota do, and they're pissed about it, and they're probably all going to vote for Trump, but, the average person. I mean, back in the day, you probably would have seen a story on that on the network news when the network news was worth a damn. I mean, I was reminded that the network news used to actually report news when they showed that clip of Biden lying to people and then called them out on it right on the national news. And then when he got accused of plagiarism, and then they just trashed Biden in that segment, and rightly so. But you're never going to see a clip like that again. They're too invested. Back then, they weren't invested. There was an idea of objectivity. They were above politics. They stayed out of it. Now, they're all in it. Who was it? It was Vice News. Somebody on Reddit posted a Vice News link like it was relevant to anything. And I replied, Vice News. But it's just, I don't understand people who get caught up in this. I guess they're just trapped in their own bubble, and they see Biden as the only solution. Seth MacFarlane, I saw a tweet from him. Tim Pool was talking about it, and I think he was reacting to Seth MacFarlane. MacFarlane apparently hates Trump, and he wants Joe Biden. And I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Seth MacFarlane who quit Twitter in a huff when Clinton didn't win. And maybe it's because he, like a lot of Hollywood guys, have probably met Trump or heard about Trump, behind the scenes or whatever. But, I feel that a lot of Hollywood guys, they're out of their depth when they talk about politics, because they kind of assume everybody's like them, and they're not. I mean, these politicians do this stuff for a living, so they can't afford to, if their goal is just to keep extending their career and, policy be damned, you betray yourself over and over again. I mean, to me, John McCain was a perfect example of that. He was the sort of guy who would propose a bill and then end up voting against his own bill. I mean, he did that a bunch of times. He was a Republican, but he kind of wasn't. And, he would just do that all the time. And it wasn't that he was particularly principled. It was that he just seemed to want to always be a senator forever. And I don't get some of these people. If I had the millions and millions of dollars, I certainly wouldn't stay being senator. I guess it gave him something to do. I guess it felt good. I guess it's a great lifestyle. But, I don't know. I'd be like, I got millions of dollars. F this. I'm going home to sit around and watch TV, and then I'll go out and do whatever the hell I want. I'm not going to go to work. But, Biden, really, I feel, to some extent, I feel bad for Biden. I think he should retire. He's very old. He looks old. He feels old. He just sort of drains the energy out of the room. And, he should just retire. He could have retired, despite his checkered past. He would have retired a well-liked vice president, which is kind of tough to do. Most of the vice presidents weren't really well-liked. They're just kind of forgettable people who disappear. Biden was the exception while he was under Obama. People liked him under Obama. And now that he's running for president, he's just getting destroyed. And he's just too old. He would have been great to, be a booster. He could have turned around and endorsed, Buttigieg or whoever. Buttigieg seemed to be close enough that they could have anointed him. But I guess, because he was the only one that could beat Bernie, there you go. And, the Democrats didn't want Bernie. They just don't want him because there's not enough socialists. And, Biden came out today. Oh, this was the other quote. Said something like, do I look like the type, do I look like the type that support these socialists or something like that? And it's like, yeah, you totally been doing that. Been doing that for months, dude. What else do you call it when you won't call out the riots and then you immediately trash Trump and Portland's burning, Kenosha's burning, Minneapolis burns, and Seattle and Chicago and New York. These are all Democrat-run cities. Atlanta, they're all Democrats, dude. They're all Democrats. If he had come out once and said something like, these are all Democratic cities, and when I'm president, there's going to be some changes because I think, and not to throw my colleagues under the bus, but I think there's something we're doing wrong. Can you imagine him saying that? People would be like, whoa, that is truth. You have said truth, sir. That's something people could get behind. He's recognizing mistakes and moving forward, but he's not doing that. He's still trying to juggle this ball well, Donald Trump's a racist and I'm not. The world's falling apart and I will fix it. No one's buying it. No one's buying, and it's just sad to see. He could just be playing with his grandkids, sniffing their hair, and he's out on a campaign trail. Go home, Joe. Let him go home.